This is the Dzogchen Semde Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For multiple decades, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. It is Yoda Monday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after we review the Four Noble Truths. Let us review A Tale of Two Cousins. Devadatta, the poster boy for patriarchy and institutional Buddhism, was quite rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. His cousin, the Buddha, was the opposite. He was flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. And as such, he's the poster boy for matriarchy or proto-Buddhism. Therefore, I'm going to you can find a patriarchal explanation of the Four Noble Truths anywhere. I'm going to share with you a matriarchal exploration of the Four Noble Truths. Hey, Pete. Let us begin with stress, the first noble truth. Now, if you ask someone in patriarchy, they'd say, the first noble truth is everything is suffering. Well, that's clearly a hyperbole. Anyone who's ever received their favorite sexual favor can tell you that that was just an hyperbolic statement. There is a lot of stress, though. Now, a lot of people stomp and snort and prance about the countryside, insisting that all our suffering is an indictment of our karmic negativities and the foolishness that generated them. Malarkey. Ask people of science, and they will tell you that the universe is trying to kill us. At least that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson says. Ask a biologist, and they will tell you there are stressors. Some are circumstantial, some are physical, some are interpersonal, and some are mental. The Buddha was able to intuit this when he described the 4 bases of mindfulness thusly. We evolved the capacity to perceive stressors as a survival mechanism. Anyone who tells you that stress must be ignored is mistaken at best and malicious at worst. It is our ability to recognize stressors and respond to them strategically that helps us as a species to survive. Patriarchy would tell us that the second noble truth is that our sufferings have a cause. Some would say that cause is ignorance. Others would say that cause is desire. But from a matriarchal point of view, oh, look at that, a mosquito. From a matriarchal point of view, the second noble truth is in our efforts to when our efforts to respond to stress is unsustainable, it generates ancillary or tertiary harm. Think of it this way. You and I and every complex life form on this planet has a dopamine-oriented reward system. And whenever we are exposed to any new thing or being or phenomenon, it is as if a part of our undermind seems to ask the 6 questions. Hey, that thing over there, should I fuck it? Should I feed on it? Should I fight it? Should I flee from it? Should I faint before it? Should I fawn over it? Whether or not these questions bubble up to our conscious mind is beside the point. Now, in a short-term situation, these 6 questions could keep us alive, could extend our life. But if this is our go-to way of interfacing with the world, is it sustainable? Consider, if you will, the automotive phenomena of the spare tire. When I was a child, born in the mid-60s, when the crust of the earth was still cooling, in the trunk, under the vinyl mat, was a full-size tire. Yes, I know, it is a thing of mythology these days, is it not? Nowadays, when you get a flat and you go rummaging in the undermost region of the trunk of our car, they give us a miserable, teeny, tiny analog of a tire. We call it a donut tire, and it's just good enough to get us off the freeway, down the off-ramp, and into the first tire shop we see. There is no way that you can use that tire to traverse the entirety of our continent on a coast-to-coast journey. Can't do it, Captain. Just can't do it. So, similarly, our dopamine system is an excellent stopgap mechanism to keep us alive, but it never evolved to be our go-to default mode. The third liberation, the third noble truth, is that in addition to there being stress and there being that which exacerbates stress, there is liberation. But liberation from what? Well, some would say liberation from desire. Others, some would say liberation from confusion. But from the point of view, through the metaphoric lens of matriarchy, it is liberation from the tyranny of our dopamine cycle. You see, we don't have only one reward system. We actually have 2. There's a dopamine-oriented reward system and an oxytocin-oriented reward system. And they're best understood in contrast, where dopamine is about competition, oxytocin is about cooperation, where dopamine can sometimes drive us to be cruel. Oxytocin rewards us for being compassionate, where the tyranny of dopamine can leave us wanting more. The cooperation with our oxytocin-oriented reward system leads to contentment. Now that might sound like malarkey, so let me explore this with you for a moment. When we work out and we're just sucking air, pausing the workout and breathing deep involuntarily feels great, but it's not fulfilling, and it's not supposed to be. If we took one deep breath and we were so fulfilled we never felt the need for another breath, we would die. If we had one glass of water on a hot day and it was so fulfilling we never felt the need for another beverage ever again, we die. If we had one delicious meal and it was so fulfilling we never felt the need to eat again, you guessed it, we die. So because our dopamine-oriented reward system evolved to keep us alive, it evolved to keep us doing the things that we need to do. We need to breathe. We need food. We need water. We need shade when it's hot. We need warmth when it's cold. And for the species to survive, we need to have sex. And so these, not only does dopamine reward for these behaviors, but it never fulfills us. It always keeps us wanting more, which from a purely pragmatic point of view is great for the species. What's that? You say your dopamine-oriented system is driving you to promiscuity? Well, that's great for genetics. Usually bad for the relationship, but great for the genetics. So the oxytocin system is not about survival. It's about thriving. It rewards the behaviors that make the specific needs for a cooperative species to survive. Consider the human body. We are not the fastest of all the creatures. We are not the strongest of all the creatures. We are not sharp of claw or long of fang. And yet, many would conclude that we have ascended to the uppermost rung of the evolutionary ladder. Why is that? Because we can cooperate. You know, the Neanderthals had bigger brains than we do, but they did not have verbal communication. We did. And so us, with our smaller brains, but our gabby mouths, were able to cooperate and pass on knowledge to a greater degree of efficiency. So the liberation Buddha offers us is not liberation from the presence of stress, but from the tyrannies. It's not liberation from the presence of our dopamine-oriented survival system because we need it. It's liberation from its tyranny. The fourth noble truth is there is a path that leads to this liberation. It is not the caprice. It's not the it is not the gift of a capricious, real or imagined deity. It is a very, very tangible path. Now, the Buddha said something that's kind of wild. In the second to the final passage of his discourse on the four bases of mindfulness, the Buddha taught that this path, the eightfold path of enlightenment, could be mastered in as little as 7 years or 7 quarters or 7 months or 7 fortnights or 7 weeks, now wait for it, or even 7 days. So we're talking about something that is ridiculously easy. Now, from the worldview of patriarchy, it is an impossibility when we are controlled by our tendencies to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, then it is an impossibility. But when we choose to passively cooperate with our autonomic nervous system, flexibly and in a manner that is both flexible and laid back, then enlightenment becomes an inevitability. What if enlightenment was simply mastery of this eightfold path? But what is mastery? Anytime we master a skill, we wind up practicing that skill spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. Mastery is not reserved for kung fu movies. Every child masters using the toilet instead of shitting their pants. Every child masters brushing their teeth, tying their shoes, riding a bike, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Arguably, ask a neuroscience scientist, they'll tell you we are mastery machines. In fact, we can become a relative expert in any topic if we just spend approximately 10,000 hours constructively exploring that topic. Wild, isn't it? So check this out. The seventh and eighth fold of the Buddha's eightfold path is mindfulness and meditation, wherein we passively cooperate with the natural functions of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Simply by setting aside some time to sit and breathe and watch and rest, once every 12 hours or so. We cannot help but notice impermanence, whether we want to or not. We cannot help but get better at letting go, even if we don't want to, simply by sitting and breathing and watching and resting once every 12 hours or so. We cannot help but become practice kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, and kind commerce, simply by sitting and breathing and watching and resting once every 12 hours or so. Whether we wanted to or not, our choices and our utterances and our deeds begin flowing, not from contrived calculations, not from wild scatteredness, but instead from love's deeply centered spontaneity, which is known by many names. Some call it right effort. Some people call it effortless effort. Some people call it doing without doing. Some people get fancy and they use the Chinese term wu wei. Some people call it being in the zone or going with the flow, or they call it expedient means. But the Buddha said it is not only possible to do it eventually, it can be done in as little as a week. So right now, in preparation for this evening's practice of mindfulness and meditation, of clarity and letting go, let us gently invite our real or imagined subtle energy to coalesce at the top of our head. Doing so is remarkably easy. All we got to do is use the tip of our left index finger to support the lower knuckle of our right index finger, palms up in our lap. When sitting and breathing and watching and resting, if we make the mistake of listening to the advice of patriarchy and actively focus on our nostrils and our breath, we will so exhaust the medial prefrontal cortex just behind our forehead that we will trigger our amygdala at the bottom of our brain, which functions as the seat of both anxiety and aggression. So instead of making that mistake, let's follow the example of a really good piano student who cannot actively focus on the sound of the metronome because they're too busy focusing on the sheet music and the keyboard. So instead, they merely hold the sound of the metronome in passive peripheral awareness. Similarly, as we passively notice air enter our nostrils, let's silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb, watch. As we passively notice air exit our nostrils, let us silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb, rest. We're not forcing our sympathetic nervous system to watch. It's already wired to do that. We're not forcing our parasympathetic nervous system to rest. It's already wired to do that. Then why are we playing with these verbs? Because doing so reminds our will, our volition, our intention that we're going to take a relaxing break from the exhausting habit of actively fighting against our own autonomic nervous system and instead passively cooperate with it. Allow it to do what it has already evolved to do. The moment you have a specific question about the philosophies or techniques that support meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 13 minutes or so. So here we are with our left index finger supporting our right. Now let's turn our attention to our right thumb And every time we silently and mentally recite the verb watch as we inhale, let's advance our thumb across the sets of creases on its fingers. Let's do that together right now. It takes about 12 minutes to count 12 inhalations. I was incorrect. It takes 60 seconds, about 1 minute, to count 12 inhalations. Now I'm going to assume you'd like to meditate for more than a minute. So let's meditate for an additional 12 minutes. To do that, we're going to use our left thumb to count 12 sets of 12 inhalations each time advancing the thumb after every 12 inhalations. Let's do this together right now, hands up in our lap. I should say palms up in our lap. There's something very pacifying about practicing the union of watching and resting. This is an ideal time for our mind to remind us of everything we dread, be it in the past, be it in the present, or be it in the potential future. This is an ideal time to watch and rest and notice and release. We don't have to force it. It works best if you don't. But remember that if your brain shows you a painful sight or sound or sensation or flavor or scent or emotion or intention or thought or memory or imagining, that is an ideal opportunity to watch and rest and process what's going on. I'm scared of fascism. I see more of it and more of it in my country. I'm scared of racism, and I'm scared of racism that's killing people who are not of European ancestry. I see it killing women. It's scary, scary stuff. Recently, the president of my country announced that anybody who isn't a Christian is a terrorist, and anybody who isn't a capitalist is a terrorist. These are scary, scary times. And so rather than try to argue with my fears and justify and minimalize and rationalize my fears, as I relax into my exhalation, I allow whatever fears I noticed during my previous inhalation to feel at least a little bit less intense, less stressful, less permanent, less defining, and even less solid. At least for a moment, at least a little bit, until the next inhalation and the cycle begins afresh. And now it's time for us to shift gears. As a preparatory practice for our mindfulness and meditation of bliss and letting go, let us gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in our chest. Doing so is as simple as using the tip of our left middle finger to support the lower knuckle of our right middle finger, palms up in our lap. Don't worry, we're going to collect another 13 sets of 12 inhalations each. But this time, as we feel our chest swell with breath, we're going to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb, feel. And as we feel our chest subtly sink as we exhale, we're going to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb, rest. It's just that simple. Practicing the union of feeling and resting is custom built for desire. We could notice the sights, sounds, and sensations, and flavors, and scents, and emotions, and intentions, and thoughts, and memories, and imaginings of things that we find desirable. And it's safe to do that within the context of sitting and breathing and feeling and resting, because we're able to notice these things without being controlled by these things. And this is, enthusiastically loving is all about empathy. And it's about taking our enthusiasm to receive the things we want and allow that to color our enthusiasm for other people receiving the fulfillment of their needs and desires as well. So this is more than just an indulgence of the debaucherous. You see the three keys to tantric meditation are clarity in letting go, bliss in letting go, and love in letting go. And they all feed into each other synergistically. Let's talk about cultiness. Wherever there are humans interested in anything, there's going to be some opportunistic person who's going to try to exploit people who are vulnerable but also share that interest. Whether that interest is in metaphysics or in athletics or in sensuality, there's always going to be someone who's going to strive to exploit others. Perhaps that is why Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, including most of humanity. I've said all that to say this. There are culty exploiters in every spiritual tradition and secular tradition. When you find someone who says you have to trust your teacher blindly because they're your teacher and because they coerced someone into giving them approval or a title, know that if they are coercing you, they are still under the tyranny of their controlling tendencies and their rigid tendencies. And if you learn from someone who's still an acolyte of patriarchy, you too will be an acolyte of patriarchy. If someone is flexible and loving and rational and laid back and egalitarian and lucid, cooperative and kind, they can not coerce you. They will not tell you to believe in anything or anyone. They will simply give you instructions and do their best to answer your questions. I can't tell you how many teachers who have said this, and I paraphrase, I'm about to give you special teachings. If you don't understand them, it's because you're not ready for them. No, it's not. People don't understand your teachings, it's because you're a sucky teacher. Now you can say, hey, not everyone's good at math and not all math teachers can teach everybody calculus. And you're right. Some people have a damaged part of the brain known as the left precentral gyrus. They won't be good at math. But every sentient human being has a fully functional sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system and therefore are capable of mindfulness and meditation. Let's shift gears. Let us passively contemplate the union of love and letting go, wherein we bring our personal needs and desires into manifesting's path of universal love. About 5 centuries ago, Leonardo da Vinci insisted that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Approximately 21 centuries before that, the Buddha taught that all that we experience breaks down into 4 categories: the mental, the circumstantial, the physical, and the mental, the interpersonal, the physical, and the circumstantial. Let's begin with the mental. Mental kindness constitutes the second fold of the Buddha's eightfold path of enlightenment. We're going to chant. And so if you have been hanging out with me on the clock app, I invite you to join me over on the Tube app. If you are seeing my funny face looking straight at you right now and you see text on your screen, then you are in the right place. Together. May each being's experience of the mental now be as peacefully wise as the mind of an archetypical Buddha symbolized by a Bija seed syllable. Like this right here. So here's the secret of dynamically practicing the Mahamudra of love and letting go. As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the 6-syllable synopsis: Bija wise for all minds. And yes, we're using a metaphor because humans have evolved to think symbolically. During our exhalation, we're going to physically relax as best we can, while simultaneously chanting the 10-syllable mantra 4 times per breath for a total of 8 breaths. Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa. Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa. Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa. Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa. Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa. Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa. Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa. Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa, Om Tari Du Nani Nuri Suwa. Interpersonal kindness constitutes a 3rd fold of the Buddha's 8-fold path of enlightenment. Together. May each being's experience of the interpersonal be as joyfully loving as the speech of an octuple Buddha symbolized by a mantra. Mantra love for all speech. Om Dhariru Dhariru Risawa, 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 Om Dhariru Dhariru Risawa. Om Dhariru Dhariru Risawa, 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 Om Dhariru Dhariru Risawa. Om Dhariru Dhariru Risawa, 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 Om Dhariru Dhariru Risawa. Physical kindness constitutes the fourth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path of Enlightenment. Together, may each being's experience of the physical now be as healthy as a form of an octuple Buddha symbolized by a yidam. Yidam health for all forms. Om Dhariru Dhariru Risawa, 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 Om Dhariru Dhariru Risawa. Om Dhariru Dhariru Risawa, 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 Om Dhariru Dhariru Risawa. Circumstantial kindness constitutes the fifth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path of Enlightenment. Together, may each being's experience of the circumstantial now be as fortunate as the lot of an octypical Buddha symbolized by a paradise pure land of Vanti. So we come now to the fourth quarter of our practice of the Mahamudra of love and letting go. As we breathe in, let us silently and mentally recite the 6-syllable synopsis. Vati boon for all lots. As we breathe out, let us physically relax as best we can while chanting the 10-syllable mantra 3 times per breath for a total of 12 breaths. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. It is not our job to visualize, it's not our job to theorize, it's not our job to believe. If all we do is silently and then verbally recite and relax, we cannot help but master the path. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa, Om Tare Dunane Nure Suwa. Having sat for the better part of an hour, we might find it refreshing to knock out what I'd like to describe as spiritual squat thrusts after we chant a synopsis of bodhicitta and refuge. In our compassion, may we long to free all beings from the toxic tyranny of dread, desire, and delusion, metaphorically known as the 3 mental poisons. In our pragmatism, may our liberation of all others be fueled by our mastery of the 3 wish-fulfilling jewels of following the Buddha's example and applying his instructions and cooperating with his students. The 8-syllable synopsis can be read on the screen. May we free all through the 3 jewels. If you wish to practice with me for the next few moments, you are welcome to. Going to take a moment to adjust the camera. And to peel my tuchus from the floor. May we free all through me, three jewels. May we free all through me, three jewels. May we free all through thee, 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 three jewels. Well, let it get your heart beating. Whew. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. For Meditate Like a Jedi is made possible thanks to the generosity of viewers just like you. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's dawn practice of Meditate Like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.